This tutorial is for 3rd grade Module 6 Lesson 9. In this lesson we're going to continue working with graphing data. The first chart shows us the number of apples picked by 4 children, and you will see that there is an empty spot for Roxanne. And the first direction says that we need to find out how many apples Roxanne picked. Looking at the total, we see that there's 72 in all. So we just need to figure out how many apples the rest of the students picked, and we'll subtract that from 72. So if I combine the other three, 16 and 12 is 28, and 20 is 48. So I just need to figure out 72 minus 48. There are a couple of different ways I could do this subtraction. One example would be using the same change method. That means I'm going to change both numbers in the same way, so it makes it a little easier to do the subtraction. For example, if I add 2 to both these numbers, my new problem is 74 minus 50. That's much easier to do in my head than 72 minus 48. The answer to that is 24. That means the answer to 72 minus 48 is also 24. And again, that's called the same change method. Another method we could use is expanded form subtraction. So I'll write each of these numbers in expanded form. 72 is the same as 70 and 2. 48 is the same as 40 and 8. In order to subtract in my ones column, I need to take one of the 10s from the 70, that leaves 60, and I'll combine that 10 with the 2 ones already there. That makes that 12. 12 minus 8 is 4, 60 minus 40 is 20. Then I combine these for a final answer of 24. So 72 minus 48 is 24, and that's how many apples Roxanne picked. In the next section, we're actually going to make a picture graph using the information from the table. I've started by writing the names of the students at the bottom of the graph. We have a key over here where we're going to choose a picture to represent a certain number of apples. Well, since we're working with apples, I'm just going to choose to draw an apple for my picture on the graph, and each apple will represent 2 apples on my graph. The students have a choice here on what pictures they want to use and how many apples they want each picture to be worth. So I'm just choosing the apple picture, and it's worth 2 apples. Well, Stuart picked 16 apples, which means I need to draw 8 apples. And that represents the number of apples Stuart picked. Roxanne picked 24 apples, so we'll draw 12 apples for her picture graph. And you can see her graph goes up pretty high here, but there's 12 apples there. And Tricia picked 12 apples, so we would draw 6 for the picture graph, since each apple is worth 2. So there's the 6 apples for Tricia. And Philip picked 20 apples, so I'm going to draw 10 apples to represent those. And there's my completed picture graph. In the next section, we're going to use either the chart or the graph to answer a couple of questions. The first question says, how many more apples did Stuart and Roxanne pick than Philip and Tricia? So first we'll find out the total for Stuart and Roxanne. So Stuart picked 16, Roxanne picked 24, and again I'm going to use expanded form addition to find their total. So I broke each number apart in expanded form. I'll add my ones. 6 and 4 is 10, 10 and 20 is 30. Combine these two for a total of 40. So that's Stuart and Roxanne. I'm going to do the same thing for Philip and Tricia. Philip picked 20 apples. Tricia picked 12. I can do that in my head. That's a total of 32. To find the difference between the two, the difference between 40 and 32 is 8. So they picked 8 more apples than Philip and Tricia. The second question says Tricia and Stuart combine their apples to make apple pies. Each pie takes 7 apples. How many pies can they make? So we'll start by figuring out how many total apples we have with Tricia and Stuart. So Tricia picked 12 apples. Stuart picked 16. We'll combine those and we get 28 apples. I'll take those 28 apples and divide them into groups of 7 because it takes 7 apples for each pie. That means that I would have 4 groups. So they can make 4 pies using their 28 apples. The next question says, Miss Paco's science class measured the lengths of blades of grass from their school field to the nearest quarter inch. The lengths are shown below. We are to make a line plot of the grass and include a title, a scale, and a legend. So I'm going to start by making a horizontal line at the bottom of the page, and that's where we'll make our line plot. We will title this Lengths of Blades of Grass. I'm going to show that each X that I write is the same as one blade, and I'm going to mark that my points are all represented in inches. The next thing I have to do is put some points on my line plot so I can plot my fractions. Well, looking at the chart, I could see that the smallest number I have is 2. So I'm going to start my line plot at 2. And then I don't have anything greater than 4. So I'm going to end my plot at 4. That means we'll have 3 in the middle. And I'm seeing that they're divided into fourths and halves. So I'm going to separate my holes into fourths, knowing that the middle point in each would be the halfway point. Now I just need to put X's where each of these data points fall. So 2 1/4 would fall right here because that first point is 1/4. So 2 1/4. 2 3/4 would fall here. 3 holes here. And I'm going to continue marking my points on the line plot. And there's my finished line plot. And you can see that 2 3/4 seems to be the most frequent measurement of the blades of grass.